Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Jonathan Majors, a name that's been in the media lately for all the wrong reasons, and now there seems to be a little bit of good news for him. Of course, the white media is not enjoying this at all. Jonathan Majors apparently has lined up a movie that's going to be shot, and now it's a European film, of course, not a major American release, but the white media has taken umbrage at the fact that this is even happening at all. And of course, their headlines about this all make sure to include the word conviction in every single headline about him. If they couldn't stop the man from being able to get back to work, at the very least, they want to try to put a cloud over him if they're able to, which is what they do whenever there's a black person who they've been able to successfully scandalize. They make sure to take their little victory laps. Let's go ahead and remind people that we were able to run this guy into the ground. But news of his pending project isn't the only thing that the white media has had to grind their crooked teeth about. He was also given an award by an organization called Hollywood Unlocked. I've never heard of these people, but one gets the impression that they're pretty fluid. Now, the award that he was given by this organization is called a Perseverance Award. Considering the circumstances, I don't even know if I would call that name ironic, probably call it fitting. Now, Majors used this as a platform to declare the obvious, that he's not perfect, but also about the treatment that black men in particular get in the entertainment industry. He made those oblique points about the selective targeting that he was subjected to, and he also made sure to thank Meagan Good for standing by him. And regardless of my own personal misgivings about Meagan Good, she did indeed stand by Majors, so it's understandable why he would give her credit. It only makes sense. I guess the white media figured that they were going to try to crack them. They weren't able to do it with Bill Cosby and Camille Cosby, but they went after Meagan Good thinking that enough pressure and she would run for the hills, only she didn't. These two are hardly a power couple, though I did have more than a little appreciation for the fact that here you had a black man and black woman who were standing side by side through these trials and tribulations. And it's definitely something the white media doesn't like to see. Somehow, though, I don't think Showtime's going to be making a documentary about Major's comeback, and if they did, it certainly wouldn't be laudatory like the one that they were planning for Louis C.K. If I were Jonathan Majors, I'd be careful about doing any sort of interviews at all. The white media would simply want to use it as an opportunity to go ahead and sling some more mud on him. They weren't able to crush his career, and that being the case, they'll take a consolation prize of just continuing to smear him regardless. Maybe there's something in the air. Will Smith recently had his first major motion picture hit theaters since the Oscar slap incident, and while Bad Boys 4 has sunk pretty fast at the box office, it debuted at number 1. And in Hollywood, that's the main thing the studio executives and the white media tend to remember. When you had your debut, did you come out with a splash or a whimper? In Will Smith's case, Bad Boys 4 debuted very strong. It actually was a little bit higher than what the projected estimates were for it. And you even had white media headlines saying that this was the beginning of turning around a slumping 2024 summer box office season. Now, for the slow coast who don't actually listen to what it is that I say very often, I am no booster of Will Smith, and I'm not a fan of Jonathan Majors either. But then again, the white media who have been disparaging them aren't fans of them either, and don't really care about them as far as box office talent goes. It's what they represent as black people that had the white media go into a feeding frenzy over them. Jonathan Majors was on video running away from this woman who claimed that he had assaulted her. I mean, the guy was a doggone track star out there just running block after block, and she was pursuing him block after block. But that doesn't matter. Jonathan Majors' crime was not that he allegedly slapped some broad around. His crime was that he was a black man who was successful, and here he had a white woman with him, and they wanted to make it very clear that's not going to be allowed. But Majors does bear responsibility of his own for this, and that he didn't vet his circle closely enough. You put yourself in a trick bag, you can't be surprised if somebody tries to cinch it closed. Now, even if Majors does manage to put his career back together again, it's not going to be the same as it was before. He's certainly lost out on a number of opportunities, and that momentum once lost is almost never regained. Obviously, he has every right to get his career back on track. After all, Kevin Spacey and Alec Deadeye Baldwin have both had scandals for things far worse than what Majors was accused of, and both of those guys have since gotten numerous job offers to be in this or that film. But Jonathan Majors isn't supposed to be able to do that. He's black. The white media showed exactly what they expected to happen to him. That's what they did with Nate Parker. He's not supposed to be able to go back to work ever again, especially not so soon after his trial. That's why Forbes is still holding out hope that maybe the terms of Major's sentence will interfere with his ability to work on this new movie. That's where they're coming from, and this is the kind of wishful thinking that the white media engages in. If the black person that they hope to crush manages to survive their onslaught, then it just becomes a matter of, let's see if we can go ahead and deny this person something later on down the line, and they will say, see, people haven't forgotten, people don't want this guy around. This is how the white media shows its power, that they can tell total lies and the public will treat it as gospel truth. This is how they demonstrate that they can conjure magic, if you will. They play a dirty game, but in all honesty, no black person who works in Hollywood can claim not to know what they do to black people. A lot of Negroes, especially the ones who work for the white media, tell themselves that them people they keep around them are their friends. When they inevitably get that wake-up call, it's usually the end of their careers, or for a few of them, their lives. Again, not to support either Majors or Will Smith, but the fact of the matter is that the white media wanted to show that it could crush these guys no matter how big they were. It's just a guilty pleasure for the white media. They just want to destroy black people, any black person, though they do prefer high-profile ones. And the fact that these guys seem to be able to push back, at least in the short term, that is something the white media definitely doesn't like, and as a result, I do think that it's noteworthy. But whatever momentary victory Smith or Majors seem to be having, I think it does prove one thing. Success is not only the best revenge, it's also the best way to reclaim one's own narrative. And in a business where white power prides itself on totally dominating the conversation, that means something. Majors has definitely got a long road ahead of him, and I'm sure it's not going to be one long, uninterrupted success story. Regardless, though, for his sake, I hope that he's learned the lesson that there was to take away from all this. I certainly hope that he doesn't take this for granted, because when it comes to a black career in entertainment, they almost never get a sequel. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Shrampstein, Ginger Vine, Morris Bodden, Russell Richardson, and Chris Pruitt. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.